The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
There'll be spectacle, there'll be fantasy, there'll be daring do and stuff like you would never see.
Be a movie, yeah, we're gonna be a movie,
Starring everybody
and me. There'll be heroes bold, there'll be comedy, and a lot of fuss that ends for us real happily. Be a movie, we can watch it all develop, starring everybody
and me. We'll take the world and set it on its ear.
Come on, join in. We're gonna start right here.
And we are going to start right here. Hello, you are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting premiere podcast, triple feature. And I am your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight we're having fun. Yes, sirree. Sometimes it's not about a movie that's out, or a TV show that's popular, or a cartoon that men hate. And sometimes it's not about synergy. It's about just having fun. It's about doing a podcast because you and your friends like to talk about movies. And here are my friends that like to talk about movies. First, this was his idea. He made me do it. Ladies and gentlemen, how can I reach these kids? Lead on him.
How can I reach these kids?
He's the finger man. Ladies and gentlemen, Pat Mullin, how do you do, sir?
Hey, what's 9 times 8?
It's easy. Anyone can do it. You could be doing it the whole podcast. I don't even care.
If nothing else, guys, I'm going to teach you some calculus tonight.
Terrific. I'm going to do.
You'd be the first one.
I'm going to do just as well as Poncho. My brain doesn't work like this. Speaking of his brain doesn't work that way, ladies and gentlemen, the misfit and miscreant himself, your dungeon master. If you pay him money, he will put you in his dungeon. Ladies and gentlemen, Ronnie Adams. How do you do, sir?
You really nailed my tenure on this show, or any show with you, on the head by saying my brain doesn't work like this.
Can I tell you? I don't know if how much of my podcast you've been listening to lately, but I've told this story on the air. I've referenced yours and I Barbie review a couple of times now, for one reason or another. Yeah. And I had my daughter listening to it with me, and I said, she's listening to it, and she hears me go on and on and on and on, as you recall, because you were there. And then I throw it to you, and I'm like, Ronnie, respond, monkey. And you're like, let me get my thoughts together. And I paused it. And I'm like, Lily, you see what I have to deal with? And she's like, Dad, in that guy's defense, I couldn't follow what you just said. You're a bright guy, and you said a lot. I would have had to organize my thoughts. That was a lot. So there you are. My daughter defended you.
Despite her taste in music and books and shoes, she's a good egg.
All right. So Pat, you made us do this. We're talking Lean on Me tonight, Stand and Deliver, and Dangerous Minds. And what do these things have in common? Schools out forever. That's right. These are schools with kids in need of teaching. And why are we doing this tonight, Pat? Like, of all the fun we could have had, why this particular fun?
I'll take this one.
Oh, okay. Go on, Ronnie.
Pat wanted to do the substitute, and you said no. Let's do these three.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to do the substitute, the principal, and I forget which other awesome school movie that was so much better than this. But yeah, Mark decided we're not going to have the fun ones first. We have to eat the meal first, then we can have dessert later. Because doing it that way, it's like having dessert before the meal. You got to have the string beans and the meatloaf and the potatoes, and then you can have the chocolate lava cake. You can't have that first. So now we're doing the serious back-to-school movies about, urban populations in dire need of resources and in low-income homes, in failing schools.
That's right.
It literally went like this. Hey, I got an idea. Let's do the substitute. Let's do this one. You're like, great. We're doing stand and deliver. And I was like, what? When? Why? What happened here?
I am every
got
awful
hoodwinked.
editor you've ever met. Hey, I have this really fun idea. That's great. Go fuck yourself. We're doing this instead.
We're saving that for somebody else, pal.
That's me for you. All right. So, I watched these movies. I've actually never seen Dangerous Minds before we decided to do this. This was the first.
Sorry to do this to you.
Yeah. I'll never forgive you for this. But I did see Lean on Me when it came out. I loved Lean on Me as a kid. Lean on Me is, I believe, 1989.
Yeah.
So I'm 13, I think, at the time. And I'm fairly certain I saw that contemporaneously. And, as we all know, I was born a small black child on the south side of Chicago. Fucking loved Lean on Me as a kid. I also wanted to beat Sam's with a bat. I'll tell you what, there's a couple. So we all know that I like to quote a movie or two every once in a while. And I have been, I told my kids this. I said, I don't know if you've ever heard me say, the only thing I have to do is stay black and die. And my son goes, I've literally never heard you say that. And I'm like, I'm telling you, I say it often. He was like, okay. But that has to be one of my favorite all-time movie lines. He's like, but Joe, I don't have to do nothing but stay black and die.
Yeah.
Word for word. Robert Guillaume dropping the N-bomb is I forgot he says that.
That was pretty jarring if you only knew him as Benson.
Right? Right, and that's all I knew him from. I was like, why did Benson say that?
Yeah.
I debate whether or not I can directly quote stuff like that on here without aggravating people.
Nope.
But yeah, so I'm not going to. But Robert Guillaume, contrary to popular opinion, I'm the head in charge.
In charge, yeah.
Ninja.
It's like, Benson.
Ninja.
Yeah.
I've never seen Mark clutch his pearls before, but
you get used to it.
But that is an awesome line too, and I forgot it was in the movie. And of course, the all-time classic, they used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
I dig your shirt, by the way, Mark.
Thank you. I wore it specifically for this podcast.
I figured you did.
Stand and Deliver. I taught briefly for about a 6-month period in the junior high that fed into Garfield High School.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, for the brief time I was a teacher in Los Angeles, that's the school I was assigned to. I loved Stand and Deliver when I was a kid. That's from 1988. And even though it precedes Lean on Me, I thought it came out after because I feel like Lean on Me launched this entire genre of schools in crisis movies. Because it feels like after Lean on Me, Hollywood went nuts with this genre.
They wanted to save everybody.
Yeah, I mean, and it went in one of two ways. It went either in the uber dramatic version that you're going to see tonight, or it went into that shit doesn't work in real life. You need violence to fix that in the way we wanted to go initially with The Substitute, The Principal, 187, and movies in that vein.
It's not necessarily like a teacher comes to save the in crisis African American child, but is in terms of like white savior movies. Remember Wildcats with Goldie Hawn?
Yeah. It was disguised as a comedy. Yeah.
Better than diamond rings. That's why we're here to sing. Sing with me, Pat.
Wesley Snipes would not be happy that we referenced this movie.
He'd be happy if we give him a couple bucks. But
I eventually want to talk about Wildcats. It was one of my favorite movies as a kid.
I will not be on that show.
Really? You're not a fan of Wildcats, huh?
I hated that movie.
Really?
I'm tapping out on that one too.
There were two movies that were in heavy rotation from the late 80s that I didn't have a reason to hate, and I just do. That and Troop Beverly Hills.
I'm with you on Troop Beverly Hills, but who didn't want to get, what was it, a Torillo dent? One football player fucking dents a locker with his head.
Yeah. I feel like there were 3 movies, like 2 or 3 movies that were always on rotation no matter what. like TBS always had Beastmaster.
Yeah.
And then there was a couple others, and then HBO always had Wildcats.
Yes.
Always. And it was just like, I'm tired of seeing a Goldie Hawn, and it's just dumb. Yeah, I was really surprised you threw.
We're all dressed and ready to play, Coach. Their fucking dicks hanging out. That's great.
I was really surprised you. Well, kind of. It matches the tone. It matches or whatever the theme. There we go. I'm tired of this whole show, but man, one of these things is not like the others.
Yeah, that brings me.
One of these things doesn't belong.
Yeah, that brings me to Dangerous Minds, where it's funny because it's funny. If I forgot that whole conversation about the substitute and whatever the fuck else movie you wanted to do, because I remember
because you weren't present for that. You were like, oh, I know what I want to do.
Yeah.
Shut up, Pat, with your idea. I'm taking it now.
Yeah, gotta shove Pat in the pool. But I think I was out real quickly on this genre. I think it was like Lean on Me, Stand and Deliver, and then I was like, I'm done with this now. I don't need to see any more of these. Because then Dangerous Mind comes out, and I feel like Gangster's Paradise was more popular than the actual movie.
It was the only,
You could not escape Gangster's Paradise that summer. Like,
I still have it burned in my brain.
That's a clear example of a song overriding the movie it was in. Like,
yeah,
and just
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I'm just like, it was in the stratosphere, played everywhere on rotation.
Sure.
I legitimately think they wrote the movie for the song. It's like Mattel said, we need some like toys. Okay, here's He-Man. Okay, now go write the story about it.
Right.
That's exactly what they did with He-Man. They're like, hey, this song is awesome. We need this to go somewhere. Now write a crappy movie.
Find me a book we can opt into for this.
Yeah. I mean, the book is probably way better than the movie. I'll never read the book, but
this genre is a great example of what I call lizard brain, where like one thing works and studios can't fucking stop themselves. Like, well, now every movie has to be, ghetto high schools in trouble and white saviors. Which, I say white savior, but there's only one white savior in this entire movie, in this entire trilogy, because Joe Clark could not be blacker. Morgan Freeman.
That's what I said.
Morgan Freeman, black and proud. And then we have Jaime Escalante, who could not be more. It's easy.
The term you're looking for is Chicano, Mark.
Yeah. Whatever.
Come on, man. Come on. Do better. Do better.
No, I will not. No.
And then you got Luann.
Oh my God. Michelle Pfeiffer with her Southern fried accent. Ugh. What? But I'll tell you what, after watching Dangerous Minds, the last thing I want to ever hear is a Bob Dylan song.
And again, we'll get there, but there's more to the use of Mr. Tambourine Man in that than, yeah.
Okay. All right, enough jibber jabber. Let's get into Lean on Me.
Jibber jabber.
Lean on Me is a 1989 American biographical drama film directed by John G. Avildsen.
Rocky.
Yeah.
Okay. Written by Michael Schiffer and starring Morgan Freeman, our president. And it's people like, what the fuck is he talking about? Go watch Deep Impact. He's forever be the president.
Excuse me, White House is down.
That's true. That's right.
Yeah.
Starring Morgan Freeman. It is based on the story of Joe Lewis Clark, a real-life inner-city high school principal in Paterson, New Jersey, whose school is in danger of being placed into receivership of the New Jersey state government unless students improve their test scores on the New Jersey Minimum Basic Skills Test. The film's title refers to the 1972 Bill Withers song of the same name, which is used in the film. Parts of the film included the elementary school scenes were filmed in Franklin Lakes, New Jersey. Came out March 3rd, 1989. On a budget of $10 million, it made $31 million. So it was, had a nice little tiny profit for them.
Mm-hmm.
It won an NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Motion Picture, and Morgan Freeman won for Lead Actor in a Motion Picture. Was nominated for a bunch of Young Artist Awards, and it's in the 2003 AFI's 100 Years, 100 Heroes and Villains for Crazy Joe Clark. 2004's AFI's 100 Years, 100 Songs is Lean on Me, and 2006's AFI 100 Years, 100 Cheers nominated. So the story goes like this. way back in the 60s, Joe Clark is a teacher. He is inspiring young white minds, and they're just having a grand old time. He's also part of a union. The union makes an agreement with the school district, which he is not in love with, and he stands on a table and does the crazy Joe Clark routine, and they go, maybe don't be an asshole. And he was like, but I'm going to be an asshole. And they were like, well, you're going to be an asshole. Maybe you shouldn't be here. So off he goes to the elementary school system. And in the preceding years, or in the forthcoming years, that high school that was once pristine falls into disrepair. And we have one of the great openings ever of any movie, as we get a montage of violence and nonsense set to Welcome to the Jungle. My kids were like, I haven't seen my kids that excited for a movie in a while. They were both like jumping up and down. They were like, whoa, damn, that's cool. They were like D. Snyder. They were like, be cruel to your school. It was great. Still one of my favorite openings to any movie. So Robert Guillaume is the head of the school district, and he's talking to the mayor, and he's like, yeah, we done fucked up. So we need a principal here to kind of take over and fix it. And they're like, no principal worth his salt wants this job. Which means they get the hero they need, not the hero they deserve. in Crazy Joe Clark.
It's like when they brought Bill Watts back to run WCW.
Yes, essentially, yes. So they tap Morgan Freeman to come back, and he is a wild and crazy dictator. Oh my God. Nobody talks in my meetings. Not know how. Hey, you inspiring young black teacher. Yeah, go fuck yourself. How about that?
Boy, did he hate Mr. Darnell.
Oh, yeah, he did.
That poor bastard.
Oh my God. He's like, I am doing it. Boy, that is like a modern marriage. I'm doing everything right. Yeah, but you still suck and I want somebody else. What the fuck?
What are you doing, Darnell? Did you just pick up trash?
I told you not to move. I was picking up trash. That means you were moving, motherfucker. Anyway, so the first thing Joe Clark does is throw out all the drug dealers, which aggravates the living shit out of one parent who prefers if her drug dealing child would go to the school.
Yeah, and then she didn't even tell us where Carmen Sandiego was hiding. What's up with that?
Exactly. There's another student who you may remember from last year's Black History Month series of gangster movies that we did. Good old, what the fuck's his name?
Come on, man.
And boy, does life imitate art in that boy's life, let me tell you.
Where is it? What the hell is this? I'm finding everybody in this cast but him. Anyway, the kid that plays Sam's. I'll find it in a second.
Yes, for his role in
Jermaine Hopkins.
There, that's it. Jermaine Hopkins from Juice. You got the juice now, Ronnie Adams.
I've always had the juice, man. I've always had the juice. I'm a little bit street.
So Jermaine Hopkins is a sloppy fat bastard who gets thrown out with all the other drug dealers, and he's like, I need to come back to school. I can't go home and tell my father I got kicked out of school. He was like, well, stop smoking crack, and this wouldn't have happened. And one of the greatest scenes,
boy? You smoke crack, don't you?
Throw yourself over.
And it is seen. I don't know if it's real or not. I don't know if this was real life, or it's just written to the movie for dramatic effect. But I'll tell you, they don't make movies like this anymore, and they don't make principles like that anymore. This motherfucker almost throws his kid off a roof,
right?
Like,
takes him to the ledge. Why don't you jump, Sam's? You want to kill yourself?
It's awesome, and it's like you can't like yell at a kid now. Meanwhile, in the 80s, Morgan Freeman almost throws a fat kid off a roof.
Okay, so I got to just because you said
yeah, go ahead.
Kids now.
We're having fun, Pat. Just cut right in.
Yeah, we can't yell kids. Did any of you guys listen to Jim Cornette's rant the other day about the Vince stuff where he was like, I was told I wasn't allowed to yell at the talent. We're a publicly traded company now.
Jim Cornette, don't you yell at those trainees. This is a multi-million-dollar company.
I couldn't yell at the talent and raise my voice to the talent because we're a publicly traded company. Maybe if I'd have fucked my secretary and took a goddamn shit in her hair, I'd have kept my job.
Yes. You can't yell at the trainees, but we can have a rape room at the WWE. You know, like you do.
As much as I disagree with him on his view on wrestling, not his entire view, but like part of his view on wrestling, man, he is just insane. I love him. I love him.
That's the best.
Well, and that's why he fits in with Crazy Joe Clark, because they have similar ways of doing stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I can absolutely see Jim Cornette, and I'm fairly certain he's told stories where he's taken a bat to somebody.
He's threatened it.
He's definitely threatened it. Anyway, so after Joe Clark threatens to throw Fat Sam's off the roof, he lets him back into school and says, "Stop being a sloppy fat kid." And from that point on,
my favorite line to the whole thing is like, he just looks at him and says, now I say, if you want to kill yourself, don't F around with it. Just do it. Jump. Just like holding a kid. It's like just snot and tears. Like, jump.
I've made a solemn promise for a variety of reasons to stop talking bad about my ex. So I'm only going to say this. Every day she tells me about some kid in her class that she's teaching who is protected up on high by God himself, and how she can't do her job because this kid has just ruined her classroom. The problem is, I've heard this story before, not just from her, but from other teachers. Like, there's an entire cottage industry on TikTok of teachers basically talking about leaving the industry because they can't discipline the kids. The kids are out of control, and it's not that they're bad kids; it's their parents let them get away with it. And so
that's why my mom retired early. I mean, he's been retired for a while, so it wasn't as bad as it is now.
Right.
So I don't know how he had any.
Grow up to be teachers and cops.
Right. And she had those parents that would come in and say, "Why did you give my child an F?" And she would look them straight in the face and go, "I didn't give your child anything. They earned an F."
Right.
So that's why she wasn't well liked by some of the parents that wanted to protect their child.
Yeah.
And other parents loved her because she just shot straight with them.
Yeah,
and that's what we need. We need Joe Clark nowadays.
Yeah, the helicoptering and lawn mowing parents have ruined generations of kids, and it's made teaching nigh on impossible.
And you have, I forget her name, but leading the charge in this movie, because her kid was one of the kids who was thrown out with the 300 that Joe kicked out at the beginning of the film when he took back over at Eastside. And, that's kind of the beginning and that impetus of those kind of parents.
Right.
At least. And a guy like Clark is always going to be a polarizing figure no matter what, because it's his way or the highway. And there's people who are going to reap the benefits of it because they're like, yeah, we're in on this. And there's people who are going to be like, hey, maybe take a softer approach. The hell with the softer approach. Don't you question me,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to be one way or the other. There's no middle ground. And you see that. And you see that in the approach with the teachers.
As I'm going through the plot, so he kicks out all those kids, and that's what grabs the ire of this one parent who becomes basically the villain of this film, and she's out to get him thrown out of the position. They're like, but what he's doing is working. What he's solving hard to solve problems with not great solutions. But what other answers are there? He has to keep the drug dealers and the drug users are preventing learning from happening. That's why they had to go. And they're like, okay, so it's like, he can't let him back in. And then it's like, then the next thing, and it becomes like a major point of contention in the movie, is he puts chains on the doors.
Right.
And they're like, that's a fire hazard. He was like, yes. And if I had another way to keep the drug dealers out, I would. But
right. And again, it's not done recklessly. It's done because one of the kids he threw out comes back in and almost kills the kid who's still there.
Oh, yeah. Good old Kid Ray.
Yeah.
A lot of the movie is Morgan Freeman kind of losing his shit. And in some cases, there's, his position is defensible. And others, it just seems like, not that he went crazy with power, but it's one of those where he was a man on a mission to create discipline in a school that had become unmanageable. And there were times where there were other teachers or administrators around him going, hey, rein this in. You've gone a little crazy. And that's sort of Morgan Freeman's growth as a character throughout the movie is he came in to do a job. He's angry about the way he was treated back in the beginning of the movie. And he kind of has to learn to temper himself just a bit because he's gone a little too far. Just kind of wrapping up the plot. This is all about getting the kids to pass the basic skills test. It's a lot after a lot of stuff gets established and he starts to take back control of the school. It becomes a little episodic. There's stuff with the Kenesha, whatever her name is, the young girl. And then my son even made a point of this. He was just like, I didn't even where did the side plot of her getting pregnant come from? And why did we need that? He's like, it seems like it was because my favorite thing is
you have to humanize Joe a little bit.
I don't.
That shows that he's an actual caring person with a heart in certain instances.
But he did that when he went to her house because her mom threw her out because it was like, you'll be better off as in the street without me. I'm no good for you. It's like, you're my mom. Like, where am I supposed to go?
It also shows that you can't solve every problem.
It's just funny because at the end of the movie, everyone's like, after they've arrested Joe Clark for putting chains on the door, they play gotcha with him. He comes on the steps. He's supposed to quiet them all down and send them home. And they're all like, Joe Clark did this. Joe Clark did that. Joe Clark loves us. And there's a girl. Well, he doesn't love you. You knocked me up and won't take care of your business. Like, it was a very real life moment because I could actually see that happening. Where like we're not all on the same page here. We're not all focused on the mission.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, just kind of getting through this. He keeps the chains on the doors. They end up catching him. The fire marshal does. So he gets arrested. The students protest. They take the basic skills test. They end up passing it. He gets let out of jail, and all is well with the world. The school doesn't go into receivership. Ronnie, it's because Pat and I have been having a little bit of a back and forth.
Yes. What's up?
Your thoughts on Lean on Me?
Man, it was one of those movies that I caught randomly as a kid on HBO because you got to sneak and watch HBO if your parents were gone or whatever. But I can't even talk.
Ronnie, I have one question for you and one question only.
Yeah, what's up?
Do you fucking jam out when I'm Not Making It starts? She's a witch. She hates me. I'm not making it. Dude, I was like jamming in my fucking couch.
Yeah,
I immediately
if you don't, you
put that on my liked songs list.
Yeah. It was one of the first movies I ever heard the F word in.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like, it was not rated R.
Yeah.
But no, it was. I guess it was one of those movies that I really liked to watch one time when I was younger, and that was it.
Okay.
And then rewatching it, it holds a bigger significance for me because my mom was a teacher. I almost went into teaching. I feel like the hand of God pulled me out of that one. Because I would have been like, well, Joe Clark did it this way, so why don't I? No.
How to get off the roof?
Why do you have a ball bat? But it's I think it's a underrated movie, and I think it should be required watch for going into the teaching industry. Or principals, or board of education. Anything.
Maybe just show them the scene of the kid smashing the teacher's head into the floor.
This is what you deal with. No, like
modern teaching.
Yeah, my mom legitimately retired early. She had an incident in her school where she begged to get this kid some help. And everybody ignored her, and he ended up doing some tragic things later on, a couple years down the road. And she just kind of went, I told them. And then she just had enough. And she was like, I'm done. And so it's going back as far as 1988, 89 and seeing the trouble that they had then. And it's gone from, we always thought that the trouble schools were always in the inner city and everything else. No, the problems have become universal now. I mean, no matter what school you're at, what district you're in, or what state or whatever, I mean, the problems are universal and they're just getting worse.
Yeah, Melissa teaches in a very well-to-do area of Tampa, and between busing, changes in demographics, changes in the teaching industry, she just tells me every day, that we talk. It's becoming impossible to be an effective teacher for a variety of reasons. Because if the parents aren't interfering, the kids are unmanageable, especially post-COVID, where we created feral children. With that, for staying home as long as we did, and especially in some areas. In Florida, it was like, it's 3 months, we're fine now. Back to school you go. But in New York, it took them forever to send them back to school.
I think some still aren't.
Yeah,
no, there's a lot that still aren't.
Yeah.
Right. And it's
I mean,
you take away the socialization from kids, they
have no clue how to act.
Yeah, they regress.
They become Nell.
Yeah.
Very good, Pat.
Oh gosh, wonderful. But yeah, it's just one of those things where I went to a year of Bible college, Appalachian Bible College, and I became kind of a pariah in my elementary education program because nobody wanted to really talk to me because I was the public school kid who defended public school kids. And they were like all about, pushing Christian school and homeschool. And I'm like, Christian schools have just as much problems as the public schools, like the sex, drugs, alcohol, violence, everything else. I said, as Christians, we're just better at hiding it. And it's the truth. It's the truth. And it's just like when you see the hand reach into schools like that and rural areas instead of urban areas, you realize that, man, we've got some work to do.
Mhm.
Otherwise it's going to be insane. That's why I like this movie now.
Pat, all right, you've been excited to talk about these movies. Lean on me.
I love Lean on Me. Lean on Me is a movie I can quote endlessly up and down all day. Because again, it's unfortunate that this type of person who is required to go in there and do what they need to do to fix things for the children who actually have a chance or want a chance.
Can I cut you off and say this is the kind of non-action movie with an action movie lead?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like because I can say this with you guys because you guys are going to instantly pick up what I'm putting down. We like, movies for men who like movies, tough guys that go in and get a thing done. And okay, so he's not, muscly and decked out in camouflage and sweaty with a machine gun. No, he's a black guy in a suit, but he does all the action hero beats and Lean on Me.
Whoop some ass.
Yeah, he whoops ass, and he takes no fucks who he upsets.
Stands
this
up
is
to
it.
the
This is our
superiors.
Joe Clark is an action hero.
Oh, 100%.
Well, he not only stands up to his superiors, he stands up to people who hold a knife to his throat.
He literally gets in a knife fight.
Yeah, he gets into a knife fight with a drug dealer in the halls of his school. It was in the school. Yeah.
And yeah, kicked his ass. But the whole thing is, again, we've created a world where men like that are not allowed to exist anymore, and that's a greater problem in society now than ever.
Yeah,
because again, we're forgetting that there's times where that needs to happen, and
if you're going to address it, then you have to read it.
Sometimes it's even Ice-T running from Gary Busey. We're referencing Surviving the Game. Okay.
Another one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're in this situation where this is a proven result. And now the real life Joe Clark didn't have the same results as grand as in this movie. They dramatized that to a certain extent. Like, yes, he did raise test scores. I think it was like something like 6%, right, when he started initiating these programs. But he did initiate these programs in real life, the SAT prep, the Saturday academic help for not just the kids, but the parents too, if they needed it for reading and math and basic skills. He did do all these things. And yeah, okay, people are like, oh, but the dropout rate, it went higher. Yeah, because he wasn't tolerating any shit from the kids who shouldn't have been there in the first place and were ruining the environment for all the other ones who might have had a chance. And that's the point. It's like in the preamble to the Constitution, you're promised the pursuit of happiness. You're not promised happiness.
Right. Oh,
it's the pursuit. Yeah.
Tell it on the mountain, Pat, to any girl that'll listen.
But that's what it is. It's the pursuit of happiness, not happiness. Happiness is not a guarantee. And, and by impeding that, you stop that. So therefore, he takes it upon himself to cut that shit out. Kick out 300 kids on day one who shouldn't be in that school, who are violent offenders in one way or another, or drug pushers, and ends that shit where it needs to end. That needs to happen more and more. But yet, now where I'm at, okay, I'm in New York City. We're seeing, a push as far as in education where people are freaking out that a kid got stabbed. And I'm like, man, I remember when there were like 18 stabbings in a school in a year. Like, that was the world I lived in. My God.
I don't want to derail the whole podcast, and I really don't want to go off too much on a tangent, but what made me laugh about the Columbine shootings was that, like, gun deaths. Let me get there.
Okay,
Your Honor.
Hot start.
Gun deaths in school were not a new thing.
No,
like gang
Oh, no,
members
yeah.
were blowing each other away in schools in urban areas for years.
Still are.
At the
And
pre-Columbine, it had been happening year after year after year, and it didn't get much play in the news because it was happening in Latino and African American poor school districts, or in in the areas where there were poor white trash there too, and it didn't get much play in the news because that no one cares. Then two rich white kids who listen to Marilyn Manson blew away their school, and suddenly, hey, gun deaths in school are a problem. God, if you're black or Latino or poor, what the fuck? Wait, now you care?
I agree, and I still remember, I remember that day like it was yesterday. I was watching the whole thing on the news, and while no less tragic than any other, I was like, that moment struck me. I was like, but wait, this literally happens all the time.
Yeah,
and more people, it might have happened on a grander scale at this school with the bombs and the automatic weapons and things like that, but which it's not the guns, it's the state of mind that these kids were in,
right?
And it, honestly, I mean, if you ask me, it comes back down to the parenting, but yeah, that's another podcast for another day.
Yeah.
But that was a moment for me too. I was like, wait, man, this happens in poor districts and black schools all the time, and nobody really gives a crap.
And to bring this back to Joe Clark, like
yes.
what we're talking about, okay, there's always signs of that shit occurring before it occurs.
Right.
There are always things to pay attention to. That school that Joe was in, East Side, in the movie, everybody ignored that for God knows how long, which is why he had to go in and kick 300 kids out to start with.
Yeah.
He didn't finalize at the 300. That's where he started with, because he already had enough to, okay, that's a drug dealer. There's 2 counts of rape and assault. This is, and had all that to go off of. Get them the hell out.
Yeah.
Right.
Get them the hell out. Get the problems out so we can address what's going on. And now, not only that, we don't have to worry about all these knuckleheads. We can keep a closer eye on what's also going on here. So when something else starts to form, we can be proactive and not reactive.
Right.
Right.
And that's the mentality. It's the proactive versus the reactive. Joe Clark, clearly proactive towards everything because he has a vision of what makes a school successful. He does have a successful career as an educator, and he knows Patterson. He knows the area. He knows the lifestyle. Let him go in and do what needs to be done, and results get yielded. You handcuff him, literally, take him away, and the fact of the matter is everybody who benefited from him was there to support him in that time.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they maybe were reticent about it, whatever, there's not a lot of times where you get a candlelight vigil to save somebody's job who's a school authority figure.
Right.
They're generally not the most universally loved figures in those buildings. But because those kids were in such a shit state before he got there, and all they wanted was a chance. They just wanted to have a day where they didn't have to worry about getting raped in the ladies' room or getting stabbed between geometry and phys ed, or getting hit with a drive-by after 8th period. Like, it's all they
You
wanted.
don't have to get that dramatic about it. But in a 40-minute class, it'd be nice if if the teacher could actually, teach. And there wasn't one kid making it impossible for the teacher to do anything. Like, that is the most common complaint I hear from any teacher that I talk to. And I talk to quite a few because I live with somebody who's a teacher. And that is, it is hard to get anything going when you have one kid who you can't kick out of the classroom, and he is interfering in every part of the lesson and setting other kids off. Because here's the thing. The other thing you have to remember is that sometimes it doesn't take, he's not the one actually, or she is not the one actually doing the disrupting, but he's setting off every other idiot in the classroom.
Yeah.
And now they're triggered. They can't learn. They're not focused because, they're goading them, insulting, whatever, I remember, like, even going way back to, ancient times when I was in elementary school. Like,
man, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was, the back when we had stone tablets and we sat across from Aristotle, who would give us speeches in Greece. Anyway, by the moonlight.
By the moon.
But I remember, like, there was a kid who like would just pick at different kids in the classroom, and those kids couldn't focus on the fucking lesson. And then now as a teacher, you're having to manage 3 or 4 different basket cases, and guess what's not being done? Teaching. I don't envy. I work at a jail. When people get loud, go to your bunk and shut the fuck up. It's great. You want to be disrespectful? Go sit in a holding cell for a while and sort yourself out. You can't do that in a school, unfortunately. God help them. I wish they could. Would solve a lot of problems.
She was quick to like, hey, get out of here. And at one point, we're like, well, where do the principal said to come back? And it's like, I don't care where you go, get out of my class.
Well, that becomes the other problem. Like, how many times are you going to send a kid to the office?
And literally, they did nothing. They did nothing. So
one thing I've learned about discipline is that if the punishment is toothless, the kid's just going to keep doing it because what harm is befalling them? They just keep fighting you.
They know how far they can go.
Yeah. Anything else on Lean on Me? I think everyone gives a pretty stellar performance in this. Morgan Freeman is great. I think in terms of just like movie craft, if we could just talk about that for a moment. I think it's my one criticism is that I started to say this before. Once it gets going, it just kind of becomes a little episodic for me. I don't feel like the narrative thread is as smooth as it could be. It just feels like, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and then the movie's over. And you're like, yeah. It's carried by performance. It's carried by soundtrack. It's carried by, you generally want to see these kids succeed. Like you cheer for them. You cheer for Morgan Freeman. But every time I think about like the plot, not that it meanders as such, but I do feel like
subplots that pop up, and it's like, is this really necessary?
Yeah, I feel like it almost feels like the movie, like the first 30 minutes, or like a plot to it, or like the pilot to a television show, and then these are just kind of episodes until we get to the season finale. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it almost was like, I don't know if you guys ever watched Room 222, but that was kind of a groundbreaking show in its day. Featured an ethnically diverse teaching staff at an ethnically diverse high school.
Which one was that one? Because I feel like because I remember there was the one with the dude from WKRP in Cincinnati with the smart kids.
No, this is not Head of the Class.
Okay, thank you. See, I love it when you're on because you'll fill in the brain gaps that have died on me.
No,
that was a sitcom.
Yeah, Room 222 is like late 60s, early 70s.
Okay.
Which is why it was so groundbreaking for that format at the time. But yeah, it very much almost kind of plays out like you're watching an episode of that show within the context of this movie at points.
All right. We're ready to move on to Stand and Deliver.
How can I reach these kids?
Kids.
Hey, why don't you go to Auto Shop? Damn it. Why don't you ever listen? Let's just do Mexican accents for the next hour.
Is that where one of the students walked in and goes, hey, I'm on time, and he completely missed the class. He goes,
oh yeah, that's Lou Diamond Phillips.
That's Lou Diamond Phillips. And he goes, hey, what's calculus?
What does everyone call the teacher for me to do this impression right? Pat.
At which part?
No, they call Jaime Escalante as a very specific thing throughout most of the movie.
I'm not going to remember it offhand.
Okay, so like we'll just go with teacher. Like, hey, teacher, I'm finally on time for class. What's calculus?
What's calculus?
So good.
Man, Lou Diamond Phillips is the man.
Angel, as great as Edward James almost is as Jaime in that movie, LDP as Angel in that movie, man, like,
yeah. Oh my god. What do you
prefer Lou Diamond Phillips in Stand and Deliver or La Bamba?
Ooh,
right. Hard that you think about that. I'm gonna
have to go with La Bamba.
La Bamba,
or the lesser known Spiders, or whatever that movie was. Yeah.
All right, so Stand and Deliver was in 19.
It was Bats. Never mind. Sorry, he was in a movie called Bats.
All right,
where he was attacked by bats. Shut up.
Stand and Deliver is a 1988 American drama film directed by Ramon Menendez. Written by Menendez and Tomasca, based on the true story of a high school mathematics teacher, Jaime Escalante. For portraying Escalante, Edward James Olmos was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actor. at the 61st Academy Awards, though you wouldn't know that by the impressions we're doing. The film won the Independent Spirit Award for Best Feature in 1988. The film's title refers to the 1987 Mr. Mister song of the same name, which is also featured in the film's ending credits. In 2011, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant, Jason Teasley. This film was had a budget of $1.6 million and made a tiny little profit of $13.9 million. And can I just say, see, folks, that's how you make movies. Yeah, small budget, large profit, not $300 million and shoot the movie 5 times.
Hey,
Just
this
saying.
is our show.
Fabric
This is our show.
and dim lighting. That's how you move merchandise.
One location. Someday we have to talk about the Breakfast Club, by the way. We have to do a Brat Pack triple feature.
Oh.
Anyway.
And a Michael J. Fox triple feature. I mean, I'm talking like Doc Hollywood, and the other
Secret
movies
by
that people don't.
Success.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hate that guy.
In December, so the plot of this movie essentially is Edward James Olmos' Jaime Escalante gives up working in computer science and decides he wants to be a teacher. He's supposed to teach. He's actually supposed to teach computer science, but hey, it's a poor classroom in East LA. By the way, here's one for you, Pat. I was born in East LA.
I was born
amount of-
in East LA.
The amount of conversations I've had lately about East LA is kind of staggering, even before doing this.
I was going to say,
I
I thought you were going to say the amount of conversations I've had about Cheech and Chong.
No, I've got a lot of friends from like the LA area that are out here, and I always joke with them. Yeah, man, from Ontario homes, like we do that.
Nice.
Do the Riverside dog, and we call each other fool,
Fool.
And literally, it's all kind of derived from either this movie, the Jokers from Next Friday, or Cartman doing Jaime Escalante when he is a substitute teacher in South Park.
It's funny.
I reached these keys.
Yeah, I remember when I was a teacher in East LA, and I experienced for the first time like middle school schools calling each other fool. I was like, what the fuck?
Yep.
Anyway, so it goes like this. So he's supposed to teach computer science, but it's in East LA, poor Mexican school, so they don't have computers. So instead, they stick him in remedial math with the Sweat Hogs, and they very quickly move from he has no control of the class to he has some control of the class to he's teaching advanced math to he defying all odds is going to teach calculus.
Calculus, Mark.
Calculus.
Yeah, calculus. He's going to teach calculus to he's going to teach calculus 7 days a week to he's going to prepare them for the AP exam to they get accused of cheating on the AP exam and have to retake it. And they do. And somewhere in there, he has a heart attack. And his wife is mildly annoyed with him that he's never home and he's constantly teaching math to poor Mexicans.
And that was in the middle of his heart attack. She said that.
Yeah. But they all go on to pass and
dragged himself out of the hospital to go back.
Right. And at the end of the movie, the last couple title cards is, and then the next year, double the amount of students pass the AP calculus exam, and then triple, and then quadruple, and then every Mexican kid on earth.
And they tell two friends, and they tell two friends.
Yes, and every Mexican American kid became an engineer. And then they designed robots, and then they launched a missile, and then it was Judgment Day. Anyway,
which is another good movie. That's Judgment Night.
I thought that was Hot Ones.
All right. So I like this movie, not as much as I like Lean on Me, but this is great. Edward James Olmos is fucking awesome in this. Like, I don't know if that's actually how he got through to the kids by like being weirdo, like getting in Lou Diamond's face, going, or the other kid's face, I don't remember who. I was like, hey, I'm the finger man. You're the finger man. I'm the finger man too. Like, I've been around students. I've been around kids. I don't know if anyone has the patience to sit through that rap. But it's funny in the movie. It's great when he does it. Lou Diamond Phillips, like I said, I first saw him in La Bamba as Richie Valens, and he's great. He's absolutely awesome in that. And I would not have thought that he was going to be like an utter badass in Stand and Deliver. Like, he has a scene with Edward James Olmos where he's like, you know, hey, give me $2. I can't be seen carrying books around, but I like you and I like the class and I'm going to take this seriously. So give me 1 book for home and 1 book for school. He's like, I'll give you 3 books. And he's like, what do I get out of this? And he's like, protection. And you can kind of see, speaking of math, you can kind of see the math working in his brain going, oh, I'm going to die if I don't take this deal. Got it.
Because he's already been threatened with death at this point.
Right.
You know, like for all your grandstanding and noble, you know, intent, you're still in East LA, man, and it's rough, okay?
Right.
Like, ain't no 2 ways about it. And if you ain't a banger out there and you ain't got homies that are going to bang with you, you ain't going to have
you live by the grace of the patience of the gangbangers.
Yeah.
So long as they don't care, don't notice, or are willing to tolerate your existence, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
And so it's like he just wants to teach his math class and be left the fuck alone by not just the gangbangers, not just the parents, but also the damn mathematics department who plays the villain.
Who mock and ridicule him at every freaking turn they get.
Yeah. There's a lot of like almost like learned helplessness in like projected onto these kids. Like the head of the mathematics department, who is essentially the villain of this thing, she's like the mother from Lean on Me. She's like, don't try to do too much. These kids will fail and they won't bounce back. And Edward James almost is looking at her like, way to put down your own. Aren't you Mexican too? Like, what's wrong with you?
Hey, thanks for selling out all your own people. Like,
right. Listen, just because I made it out and got a hoity education doesn't mean the rest of these fucking wetbacks will. You know, it's like what the fuck? It's a great story about resilience, and that's the point he's trying to make. He was like, if we don't and you can see it in the way the classroom demographics change, where like he starts off in remedial math and like they don't have enough desks for the kids. By the time we get to AP calculus, there's only like 10 kids, maybe. You know, it's just like changes over time, clearly indicating that not every kid stayed with him the whole time. And I was reading through the wiki. That's one of the things that they said was like a lot. By the time he got to class, there's only like 2 kids left. You know, obvious, and that's I think one of the failures of the movie for me is they don't really show that. They focus so minutely on the kids who took the AP exam, which you kind of have to for dramatic effect, but it would have been nice to sort of show, hey, he wasn't a miracle worker.
I think it almost packs more punch if you see the kids get weaned out as it goes.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe they succeed at this level of algebra prior to that. And then they start going to tell, okay, I can't do this. I give up. I'm out. Not every story is going to be a success story, but it's the ones that have the success story that would, you know, really impact you, you know, especially like if you know, we had all the kids who took and passed the AP course, right? Let's say it just got down to out of the 10, 3 of them, right? You know, let's say you had like Angel, Pancho, and Lupe, right? And like, let's say it was those 3. I feel like you would be more invested in the success of those 3 than you are spread out over the 10.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I wish they had spent a little bit more time kind of showing a balance between the successes that he was able to push forward while looking at the people who either failed outright or got as far as they were going to go, but were not interested in going any further. Because, I mean, that happens. Like, I can pass math just fine. I don't need calculus. Which was kind of, I know that was me. Like, I didn't take calculus when I was in high school. I got through whatever the fucking 12th grade requirement for math was, and that was good enough for government work. And I think showing that would have made a little bit more sense. I think also, if you're gonna tap into that like family drama of, hey, your kids fucking miss you, like you're spending all the time with the riffraffs and not any time with your actual kids, because they kind of hit on it once, and there's like the passive aggressive wife going, oh, God, she was more Jewish than she was Mexican. Like, oh, here's my husband, and he's off doing whatever, and never spending time with his family. What are you saying, Pat?
She was very Yenta.
She really was very Yenta.
Yeah.
Like, are you Mexican or Jewish? Jesus Christ.
But can we
I'm
also
gonna-
address the fact, though, that for all the good stuff, so this is a math-based educational film, right? 'Cause
Right.
they're specifically saying math. Remember, like, when your teachers be like, oh, what are you going to just walk around with a calculator in your pocket for the rest of your life? I mean,
My other
yeah.
my other favorite thing, because it's happening now with both my kids. They're both like, why do I need to learn this? You know, like, how is fractions going to help me? Like, well, when you get paid 1/3 of your money, you'll fucking know, and you'll know what that means.
Who's this FICA guy?
Oh,
Right,
man.
who the fuck is FICA? All right, Ronnie,
Yeah.
here's your 2 minutes to talk. Stand and deliver. Go.
Stand and Deliver was a good movie. I remember it being on as well. HBO. The main thing I remember about this when I was a kid was my dad watching it with my mom and dad, and my dad cracking up at the calculus thing, like just like
so good.
like just laugh for hours at that.
Mm-hmm.
And you just even hear him giggle and be like, calculus. I'm like, really, Dad? But it was another. I think I'm in the same vein as it's good, but I prefer Lean On Me. Yeah. I prefer the other one more. But I mean, Edward James Olmos is just a brilliant actor, and he really pulls off an amazing performance in this. And
Oh yeah, it's a tour de force.
and yeah, and Lou Diamond Phillips this is where I found out who Lou Diamond Phillips really was.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I watched La Bamba later on in life because a movie about a singer who died did not appeal to me as a kid. I mean, that's just how it was.
Your mother apparently didn't play doo-wop and like 50s and 60s music around the house like mine did, because like
No.
I got a lot of Richie Valens at home.
I got introduced to him in Young Guns.
Yeah. But no, shoot, we were Three Dog Night, Creedence Clearwater, and Dire Straits family. So
Ronnie.
yeah, what?
Oh Donna, I had a girl, and Donna was her name.
Yeah, that one.
I haven't been the same as I love my girl.
My girl,
Donna. I actually prefer the message
Donna,
version.
oh where can you be? Hey, at karaoke.
Yeah, anyway.
Karaoke the other night, I did Richie or Frankie Avalon's "Beauty School Dropout" from Greece.
That song was in my head the other day, and I wanted to kill myself.
I like.
Can I say that, or do I have to say unalive myself? I'm sorry.
I don't fucking care at this point.
Beauty School Dropout.
Beauty School Dropout.
It's literally the worst.
No graduation day for Ronnie. Beauty School Dropout.
I would like to say that I do enjoy your karaoke TikToks.
Not when you're in a
Until
onesie, though, Mark.
Right. Or naked. Well, you know, I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Oh my gosh, where is Mark's shirt?
Well, you'll be happy to know that the current girlfriend put the kibosh on the naked karaoke. For the
I figured that.
Only family friendly karaoke going on right now.
But yeah, it was good. I mean, like the main standout to me is Edward James Olmos and Lou Diamond Phillips. Their performances were incredible. So that's
For this genre, this movie was kind of like, I know Mark talks about Lean On Me being the explosion. This walk so Lean On Me could run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was definitely like
I'll agree with that.
This was the test flight before we got like the main flight and then a squadron of fucking Spitfires. I just wanted to say this one thing. I'm gonna let Pat have the last word on Stand and Deliver, and then we'll move on. The bit where they're, the big like third act is you cheated on this AP exam. There's an investigation and then the retaking of the test, and that's like the big finale. At one point, they're questioning the kids, and Andy Garcia is trying so hard to level with these kids. He's like, "Just tell us what happened. If you just tell us what happened. If you just talk, we can protect you." Famous last words from any cop. And finally, Lou Diamond Phillips having fed up with all of this, and it's a great moment. Gets up, he's like, fine, guys, let's just tell him what happened. And they're all looking at him like, the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean what happened? Everyone's just giving him a look. Like, no, guys. It's time. Let's tell him. And I'm going to stop describing the scene to say this. Remember a time, Pat? I know you do. I know this is what you think about all the time, where we could just make fun of ourselves for being, make fun of our little racial picadillos, a little racial things about us that make us special. We can make fun of ourselves, we can make fun of each other, make fun of other people for our different racial qualities, ethnic qualities, gender qualities, and no one cried a river of tears about it.
And it was that time where you could be offensive, if you can call it that way, because you'd also be self-deprecating.
Right. So there's very Mexican, very vato, very Los Lobos.
Chicano.
Sure. Very Chicano, very Mexi-melt. Lou Diamond Phillips going, I cheated. I got the text questions ahead of time. How did you get them? From the postman. I stabbed him and put him in my locker. And everyone cracks up laughing. And what makes that funny is he's parodying like how some Mexicans talk. It'd be like when we do like, a way stupid Southern accent, like Michelle Pfeiffer in Dangerous Minds. We'll get there in a moment. Something like that. I killed him and put him in my locker.
We were not allowed to yell at the talent.
And it's it's quality delivery, it's quality acting, it's a quality line. Mm-hmm. And it's not the kind of thing you can get away with anymore.
Quick question for Pat, though, a little bit off subject. Who did Corny slap the piss out of to get fired?
Santino Marella.
Marella. Yeah, that's right. Never mind. Okay, continue.
All right, Pat. Last word on Stand and Deliver.
Yeah, it's a very good, very well-made film. I think the narrative does move smoother than Lean on Me, but also there's that argument of it being more completionist and Lean on Me's end, showing more of what actually did happen than they did in Stand and Deliver, where they condense about 4 to 5 years worth of story into a single school semester and a half, basically.
Right, and because the kids stay the same fucking age and don't change at all.
Yeah,
you would be convinced it was the same year.
Exactly.
We went from times tables to calculus in a single school year. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, not exactly how that works, but it's also for the purpose of moving the story along, which we kind of took issue with Lean on Me kind of extending that story to a certain point. Both, to me, well-made films. I do think Lean on Me plays a little better and gets the better reaction out of me. But I do like both, and whereas I think the narrative of Lean on Me is superior, I think the performances, as good as Freeman is in Lean on Me, you got two great performances from Edward James Olmos and Lou Diamond Phillips, and they really just rock it.
It's easy. Anyone can do it. Come on. I just want Edward James Olmos play that in you're in bed with your woman. Come on, it's easy, do it. Just chasing somebody around the house. Come on, it's easy, do it. I'm the finger man. Get away from me, you creep.
No, I've done the finger man thing, yeah.
Have you? Yeah. You're with your woman and you're like, I'm the finger man. Oh God.
Say, what's 9 times 9?
Imagine if you don't know the context of that and you're just doing that to somebody like my kid or something. Hey Ted, I'm gonna tell you about this thing that happened. I'm the finger man. What the fuck? 9 times 10.
I had a kid Juan that used to work for me, and he had never seen Stand and Deliver, so I told him to watch it one day, and then every day we just called each other finger man, and it was hysterical.
That should have been your name tonight. Instead of how I reach these kids, you should have been like, I'm the finger man.
Hey, finger man. I figured somebody else might take it, but
who, Ronnie or me? I leave mine the same all the time. Though I should have changed it to HNIC. I had a friend.
Listen, I had to mute my mic. Yeah, I had to mute my mic for a second because of my phone. But you cannot change your name to that. You cannot.
I used to have a hat. I got Nick Mitchell a hat that said Super Tramp, the biggest tramp of all. Long story. But I got myself a hat Because remember, Pat, remember back in the day when we were young, we're not kids anymore. There were places in the mall that you could get like designer hats made.
You mean airbrush?
Yeah, I didn't really have a lot of exposure to that.
Okay.
My hat story is more one day my dad dropped a box of presents off that because I hadn't seen him in like 6 months, and one of them was a Jump Brooklyn Afrocentric hat.
Okay. There were places in the mall where they would do like they would like sew stuff on a hat for you, or they would write stuff on a hat for you and like stitch it in there. So I had served like for presents one year. I got one for Nick Mitchell. I got one for myself. You know what my hat said? The HNIC.
You could have gone Mythwick. You could have gone anything. Now technically, officially it stands for military.
Just watch Lean on Me before you decided on that.
He didn't. He didn't. But officially it stands for military.
Would you believe me if I told you I made my friends call me the HNIC for a while?
Yeah. Military figure, what's in charge, but you know what it really stands for.
That's a great transition into Dangerous Minds. Ugh, this movie.
Good night, folks.
Ronnie bails. I did not see this when it came out. I did not see this until I had to watch it for this podcast.
Bro, nobody saw this when they came out. They just bought the soundtrack.
I remember the stupid trailer on TV like every third commercial break. Every
Where they were
time.
teaching her how to,
Always the once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yeah, right.
I don't even remember that.
Michelle Pfeiffer fan.
I have two lasting memories of Dangerous Minds. One is the one that we talked about before we started recording tonight, which is You Couldn't Get Away from the Coolio song. A song so popular. How popular was it? It was so popular, Weird Al did a parody of it.
I mean, wasn't it on the top 40 for an entire calendar year?
Yeah, something like that.
That's kind of absurd.
It's weird what catches fire in our culture, isn't it? Like I could not explain why Coolio's Gangster's Paradise was as popular as it was. It was more popular. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but when you think about mainstream culture, Gangster's Paradise was the most popular rapper and or hip hop song of the 90s.
Dude, what didn't it take like the Macarena to knock it off number one?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that, yeah.
You're talking about like icons of rap at that time. Never mind the Wu-Tang Clan, my personal favorite rap group of all time, as we all know.
Dude, Nas just dropped Illmatic. You still had Big Daddy Kane rolling out there. Like
I was like, you had Tupac, Biggie.
The heavyweights were all there.
Right. And Coolio, this asshole with the hair everywhere. Like you just don't care. And this one song. I don't think any other Coolio song ever did shit. But Gangster's Paradise was, like this close to replacing our national anthem. But there was a movie, and they called it Dangerous Minds. And my other lasting memory of this was having seen Lean on Me and Stand and Deliver. And then this comes out, and I'm like, nope. I had the same reaction to Dangerous Minds that I had to Tom Cruise as Jack Reacher. Just no. I don't buy this. I'm not interested. I'm sorry. Catwoman as a teacher who turns around ghetto students. No, thank you. Yeah, I was not buying Michelle Pfeiffer in this role. And I like Michelle Pfeiffer generally speaking, but I could give a shit less about this movie when it came out.
I think Michelle Pfeiffer's great, but this is awful. and I kind of said this to Mark earlier before you came on, Ronnie, before we were all here. But so to reference something current, I don't know if you guys have seen. Mark, you saw Saltburn. Ronnie, I don't know if you did. It's kind of not something. Okay, but like that to me is what delusional, not necessarily poor people, but people who hate the 1% think this is what the 1% are like behind closed doors. Dangerous Minds is what the 1% thought was happening in every high school in America in the inner city.
You know, it reminds me of. So I went to England with my parents sometime between like college and going out to California. And I remember talking to a British waiter, young kid, and he was like, "We are convinced, and you cannot tell us otherwise, that American high schools are all like Saved by the Bell." It's like, wow.
I mean, Parker Lewis, but here we are.
I mean, we're a little closer to what's her face from Showgirls than we are Saved by the Bell, but I keep threatening Ronnie or Evan or Chris Bailey or anyone that fucks with me. I can't do it to you, Pat, because that would be like shooting you with a Nerf bullet. And I refuse to do it to Robert because I still want to be his friend. But I keep threatening a triple feature of Showgirls, Striptease, and Hustlers.
First of all, I love 2 out of the 3 of those movies.
Oh my god, how great is Showgirls?
Showgirls is phenomenal, first of all. Second of all, Striptease is amazing just for Burt Reynolds.
Yes.
But Robert Patrick is pretty damn great in it too.
Yep.
Hustlers I will never watch, sorry.
Yeah, well, I needed a third stripper movie. All right. Speaking of strippers, Michelle Pfeiffer in Dangerous Minds.
Yeah.
It was a 1995 American drama film directed by John N. Smith and produced by Don Simpson and Cherry Bruckheimer of the Boom movies.
Yep.
It is based on the autobiography Yo, My Posse Don't Do Homeworks by retired U.S. Marine Luann Johnson, who in 1989 took up a teaching position at Carmont High School in Belmont, California, where most of her students were African-American and Latino teenagers from East Palo Alto, a racially segregated and economically deprived city. Michelle stars as Johnson. Critical reviews were mixed, and some critics praising Pfeiffer's performance, but criticizing the screenplay as contrived and full of stereotypes. Yeah, no shit. This is one of those things where the movie is shit, but somehow captured the imaginations of the movie-going audience, and somehow or other, despite the odds, made money. On a $23 million budget, it made almost $180 million. This, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the reasons why we can't have nice things. It is a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes. However, it did win some awards. Michelle won Best Favorite Actress at the Blockbuster Entertainment Awards.
Oh, well,
Never mind. I thought it was going to be something relevant. Yeah.
Coolio won for Gangsta's Paradise Best Rap Solo Performance at the Grammys.
Yeah.
It was nominated for an NAACP Image Award. It was nominated for a bunch of MTV Movie Awards.
How was this nominated for an NAACP Image Award when it literally just cast a million stereotypes?
The soundtrack was, I should say.
Oh, okay.
And then Gangsta's Paradise by Coolio won Best Rap Video and Best Video from a Film at the MTV Video Music Awards. All right, so this fucking movie. Michelle Pfeiffer, like all women do, has ended her marriage. And she needs a job. And she's no longer a Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine, but she's not actively in the Marines anymore. So she decides she's going to be a teacher, and her buddy, her best male friend, gets her a job at the school he teaches at, and she's teaching what appears to be English to a bunch of ne'er-do-well children. It goes poorly, as all first days do for teachers.
Yeah, white bread.
And then she comes in the next day, and she's like, "How about Bob Dylan?" No, wait. How about I teach you karate, which is my favorite part of the movie, right? And then they're like, "Hey, I don't know if you know this about modern schools in the 90s, but you can't get them to fight in the classroom." By the way, I actually did that as well. My last day teaching in middle school, I was just like, "Hey, who wants to wrestle?" And I was like, I had a fight club going.
Work for bottoms.
Yeah. So anyway, after she is told, "Stop teaching karate, you lunatic," she's like, how about poetry? So she brings some Bob Dylan lyrics into the classroom, and she gets discussions going about
Mr. Tambourine Man.
Yeah, song lyrics and what it means, and she's teaching critical thinking to a bunch of ne'er-do-well students. In a scene reminiscent of season 3 of The Wire, she bribes the kids with a fancy dinner, of which only one of the kids out of the 3 shows up. this movie just fucking meanders from one scene to the next, to the point where I lost track of what was going on. And by the end of it, one student is dropping out because she's pregnant. Another student is dropping out because I don't remember what the fuck the reason was. Another student is pulled out by his grandmother because she's like, what the fuck are you teaching him? And then she eventually just quits. And that's the movie. Pat, your thoughts.
Okay, so again, we talked a little bit about white savior complex.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it's very subtle in this movie that's what we're looking at here. Okay, and Michelle Pfeiffer's the only other white person in the movie is her friend George Zazunza. And yeah, so you know, the idea that you were going to reach a bunch of kids with Bob Dylan in the mid-90s, you know, specifically not kids who grew up on Bob Dylan and couldn't give a shit about him, is just absurd. And in real life, she did use rap and, you know, modern music to touch them like that, which makes sense.
Right.
So they can get their parallels from their actual culture and what they're into and draw that interest out. This one, she reaches them by, you know, talking about Bob Dylan after they have a conversation about Dylan Thomas, and she misunderstands, and her friend is talking about Bob Dylan on MTV, you know, which is absurd. She does the karate thing and then tries to immediately transition into the actual curriculum as if that's going to just work automatically.
Right.
And then, you know, then it's almost kind of borrowing liberally from Lean on Me at a certain point where, like, you have, I want to say it's Raul is the one who's in, like, the gang. And she, like, goes to his house to, like, congratulate him for that and, like, takes him to dinner.
Yeah.
And then the other kid, I want to say it's Emilio, right?
Yeah.
And like he's the big one, and like doesn't want to ask for help, and then understands he's got like a street beef that's not going to go well. So she tells him to go to the principal's office, but then he doesn't knock on the door, so the principal just dismisses him, and she freaks out because he had a serious problem, and you shoot him away for one of your stupid rules. Well, it's also like, yeah, well, this fuck up has had how many times where he's done this shit and not knocked on my door. Why am I going to listen to him now?
Right.
You know, so I felt no sympathy for her in that end because kid knows the rules. Kid just chosen to ignore them for this time, and all of a sudden he's going to turn around, doesn't do it. So the principal says, fuck you, get out. I don't blame him. Because you know why? Before she got there, the white savior, they're all a bunch of shitbags. I wouldn't have the time of day for them either. So then the kid gets killed. And, you know, she's like, oh, this is it. I can't do this anymore. And I'm going to leave. But somehow all those students that she inspired and motivated, they're telling her, don't quit. Don't leave us. And it's like if fucking you whitewashed Morgan Freeman and Lean on Me, cut his balls off and made him, you know, lose 75 IQ points. You'd have Luann as played by Michelle Pfeiffer. And it's literally taking the worst parts of all these movies and putting them into a movie to try to tell this narrative. And this is why it sucks so hard.
Yeah.
Literally, the only thing I enjoy about this movie is that Wendy and Lisa song, This Is the Life, because it sounds like early Revolution because they were both in the band, and it's a great song.
Ronnie, you want to take me home, baby doll? Because I honestly have nothing more to add to this.
It was there. I can't get behind this movie. I don't like it. The white savior thing is just
literally every kid in the movie is a stereotype.
Yeah, it was boring. I'm sorry, it's boring. It was boring. I wanted to sleep all the way through it, and I probably did for like 75% of it. It's just not it didn't live up to the standards that the other two movies set. There were amazing performances by Lou Diamond Phillips and Edward James Olmos, and then you got he never gives a bad performance. Whose name I completely forgot.
Morgan
He's
Freeman.
God. Morgan Freeman. Yeah, I've never seen him give a bad performance in anything. And then you get Michelle Pfeiffer, who I'm a fan of. I do like her stuff, and she's like, I could teach you all how to read, and you know it's dumb. I'm sorry. I mean, I just I didn't get it. I don't like it. It was
Look,
honestly.
Tim Burton had Michelle Pfeiffer do 100,000 takes of her backflipping and going meow, and it's awesome.
You know, what movie
awesome.
has essentially
this
the
is
same
not
plot
the same
as this?
actress.
No, you know what movie has the same plot as this, and it does it better? Disney's The Big Green.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Where Olivia D'Abo comes over from England to teach in this very small, poor town in Texas, and motivates the kids through soccer, and gets them feeling good about themselves, and they start learning stuff. You know what's sad? That movie's a million times better than this one.
Yeah. So, like, I know I had some stuff. I was quite quiet on this anyway, and didn't chime in because, honest to God, I tried to watch this movie. Even back in the day, I tried to watch this movie, and I can't get through it. I can't. I just think it's that bad. I really do.
The first time I got to sit through this in full and watched it, it was like 2012, and I had made like 3 attempts prior. Once with commercial breaks, which was just a terrible idea. I saw like a commercial break at the midway point, and I was I'm out of here. I gotta go get some Skittles.
Can I talk about something about the film craft for just a second?
No.
Lean on Me is 1989. Stand and Deliver is 1988. We are on traditional film in these movies. Why does this movie from 1995 look like it was shot in the 70s?
Because they wanted you to feel the gritty impact of the urban environment.
Like,
so that's why they shot it like
that. Looks like it was shot on brighter film.
Yeah.
Which is another movie that's better than this one.
Okay, well, now you're comparing a movie that is legitimately awesome to one that is legitimately garbage. I mean, you know.
They shot that a block away from my high school.
Wow, that's awesome.
Really?
Yeah.
Great movie.
I wouldn't confess that they shot this anywhere near anywhere I've been. It was Dangerous Minds.
No, I'm talking about Dog Day Afternoon, not Dangerous Minds.
Yeah. But no, Dangerous Minds is just not. It's okay. I think the kids use the term dog water now, and that's what this reminds me of. Is dog water. It's the water that's left over after your dog drinks from the bowl.
Yeah, gross.
Okay.
All right. The only thing I'm going to say is, Lean on Me. The opening. Lean on Me. The opening scene about Joe Clark saying, "If you do this, the school will go into disrepair. You are robbing you're robbing future kids of a proper education if you go this way." And they're going, Joe, the deed is done. The deal is made. Just go with the flow. And he's like, fuck your couch. Okay. And you get a sense of why the school is in disrepair and the children are in crisis. Stand and Deliver, there isn't that really overarching, like, here's East LA. Most of these people are not from here. You know, like, there's none of that so much, but you do kind of go into each of these kids' homes and you get a sense of who their parents are and why they're struggling, and you know why this guy is saying, "But I believe in you," and that's enough to motivate them to cultishly get behind him and get themselves through calculus. I never got that from Dangerous Minds. I don't know why these kids are in crisis, and it's like it's. I talk about this with Robert all the time. Please calm yourself, Ronnie. I talk about this with Robert about, you know, I said this actually about Madam Web. Girl is not a character trait. Black is not a character trait. Gay, not a character trait. And that essentially is the level of characterization in Dangerous Minds. Why are these kids in crisis? Well, they're Black and Latino. So I don't know if you know this or not, but not every Black or Latino child is in crisis. They all don't go across America to poor high schools. I'm not sure if people knew that or not. But Dangerous Minds would have you believe that's enough. Here we have Black child. He has a gold tooth. Clearly, he can't read. Like, what the fuck?
This is why the Big Green was better, because they're a bunch of, you know, white kids in a dirt poor town in Texas with a couple of Latino kids mixed in that, you know, were literally people who were illegals, and that's part of the plot line. But they all have no resources there. But guess what? It doesn't matter that they're white or whatever. They're just people with no resources. That's a trait.
Bro, I grew up in West Virginia, surrounded by Kentucky and Kentucky. That's all I gotta say. There are literally people that I knew that couldn't read because they grew up in an area that had no money for books or anything. Like their school suffered. I mean, they were illiterate in high school. So it doesn't just affect urban areas; it affects everybody.
And I was in an urban area, when I was in elementary school.
Right.
We had kids who were, again, not
doing calculus.
No, we did not. We had kids who didn't speak English.
Yeah.
Who were in our school, and like in my like first grade class, I was in the advanced reading group because I spoke English and read English.
Wow.
They would pull 7 or 8 of us out and like go, and we would read like something by like Hans Christian Andersen or something, right, in a different classroom, because the other kids were basically being taught like ESL type lessons. So then I don't know why this came to me years later, but I was like 16 and I was like, hey Mom, remember when I used to get taken out of class and stuff? And then she was like, yeah. I was like, was that slow or something? And she was like, no, actually, that was because you were advanced because you spoke fluent English. And I was like, oh, okay.
So,
cool.
On Long Island, Massapequa is a huge school district, and part of it had to be carved out into North Massapequa. And North Massapequa ran the gamut of poor white trash to upper middle class, lower upper class kids. There were some really, really rich kids in my neighborhood. Brad Waskowicz lived around the block from me. That Brad Waskowicz, who almost had his leg amputated in a vicious soccer accident. I like that I'm almost 50 and I can still recall these kids' names and call them out. Anyway, his family was fucking filthy rich, like mansion filthy rich. Lived in a giant house around the block from my distinctly middle-class parents. And down the block from me was another kid who was just the poorest of poor white trash. So, in a district of Irish kids and pizza bagels being Italians and Jews, all pretty much all white, like not a black kid amongst us.
You literally meant like pizza bagels.
Nope. Nope. Italians and Jews, pizza bagels. You ever heard that?
No.
Gosh.
I want some bagel bites now.
To stop insulting my people.
You insulted my people.
Hang on. You've never
Italian.
You've never heard the term Jew bagel before?
Mark, he lives in this country. There are no Italians or Jews there.
Oh.
Excuse me. My grandfather was named Mario Bavino and was a foreman in the coal mine. He came over from Sicily, baby.
Okay.
How he ended up in Logan County, West Virginia, I'll never know.
A common way to insult the Jews, aside from the normal ones that we discuss on this network, is to call them bagels.
So the more I hear about this Hitler character, the less I care for.
Oh,
and the point being, you can't just like look at a classroom full of kids and be like, you're all poor and in crisis, or you're all in crisis, and here comes this teacher to save you all. Like in a class of like 30 kids in the school I went to, you had everybody. You had all kinds of kids.
They were all teacher on Everybody Hates Chris, who's just so backhandedly racist. Chris,
all right.
This is a project about parenthood. I understand this may be difficult, what with you not having a father. I have a dad. Of course you do. It's just hard because he's not around.
Right.
This is Dangerous Minds, basically, but playing that premise straight.
Yeah, that's the point that I was getting at. It was like Jerry Bruckheimer makes some really fun, exciting movies, and I feel like when he's gotten some halfway decent writers that can, put together proper characterizations that make you care about these people and not be like, hey, look, it's a black kid. Clearly he's in crisis. Oh, look, it's a Latino. Clearly he's in a gang. Like, what the fuck? Like now, the more I talk about it, the more I realize how racist Dangerous Minds actually is.
I'm telling you, it's
This is
literally
Bruckheimer. I keep forgetting that. What isn't it? Wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
This is how absurd, arrogant, rich white people perceive black neighborhoods and schools. Just like the fucking dumb people who hate rich people perceive them in Saltburn.
I think one last thing about my growing up. I grew up in an all, as I jokingly said before, I grew up in a poor black child in the south side of Chicago. I actually grew up in a middle class black neighborhood in Long Island called Uniondale in the shadow of Nassau Coliseum. And that also had a gamut of poor black kids. You know, one house had fucking cars on the front lawn with damaged windshields that were all cracked up. You know, there was definitely a drug presence in my neighborhood, but there were also black kids, black families in my neighborhood that had like VCRs at a time when those things were like $1 million. Hey Pat, remember the projection televisions where you'd like open the front out and there was like the green and yellow lights and everything?
Yeah, I remember the red, green, blue lights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew kids that had those. You know who didn't? My honky ass.
Hey, that makes two of us.
You know, I knew kids who had Laserdisc players before I even knew what a fucking Laserdisc player was.
Still never seen one of those in person.
I've seen 2 of them. They do exist. That's my point. Like even in a town like Uniondale, you had some poor black kids, you had some poor Latino kids, but you also had some fairly wealthy people in that neighborhood, depending on what side of the block you happened to live on. And then there was my middle class fucking white family right there in the middle, next to the poor Germans and their literal German shepherds. Tales of my youth. All right, guys. I think
I just have one more thing to say.
Is it about West Virginia?
No, to quote Joe Biden, poor kids are just as bright as white kids.
Did he really say that?
Yes,
I swear he did.
I can't wait for the election this year. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be a crap show, and I love it.
All right, folks. Pat, did we have fun?
I'd like to say yes.
But he can't.
Oh, my God. Ronnie, did you have fun? Sleepy Ronnie?
Yeah. It's been a long week, but yeah, I had fun.
All right.
You know what's fun is watching like The Substitute, The Principal, and 187. That's a good
Okay.
time. Right,
stop haranguing me as I had to teach my son what that was this week.
What's the one about? There's
he was a pitcher on the Reds.
Sasha. It's the dude from one of the Suzanne Summers comedy show
Patrick
where
Duffy?
she.
The
Patrick Duffy.
Oh no, Sasha Mitchell in The
Sasha
Substitute.
Mitchell. Is that The Substitute
it's,
too?
Class of 1999, The Substitute.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to watch that.
Okay.
I mean, I can watch it at any time. I don't care. We don't have to talk about it.
You're allowed to watch movies and not podcast them. Trust me, I know.
I know that. I've been doing that for a while. Because,
I think my kids to go see the Bob Marley movie tomorrow, and there is no podcast scheduled about that.
During Black History Month, that seems inappropriate.
Oh, my God. All right. Speaking of Black History Month, on Monday, myself and Robert Winfrey reviewed Madam Web because we were contractually obligated to. On Tuesday, because Black History Month rolls on, myself and Jason Teasley celebrated Black cinema by looking at a white director. We looked at Craig Brewer's Hustle and Flow. Why are you guys shaking your head at me? What are you, new? Hustle and Flow, because it's hard out here to be Ronnie Adams. Black Snake Moan.
I am a player.
And Pat Mullin is my name. Sorry, Dolomite is my name. And,
hey, look, also made by a white filmmaker.
And Fuck It Up Motherfuckers is his game. All right. Next week, we will do podcasts, allegedly.
Anything good?
Maybe.
No.
On Monday, since I will be at my daughter's concert.
Oh, nice.
Pat's girlfriend will be hosting a show. She'll be doing the live action Avatar show from Netflix. My son may or may not be on that, depending on what time we get home.
Give him all the sugar in the world and put him on there.
So I can
Please.
put Alexis back in her place again. On Tuesday, Damn You Hollywood will be looking at the 10 2024 Best Picture contenders, from Barbie to Oppenheimer to Zone of Interest to Anatomy of a Fall to Poor
Barbie does not deserve any praise that it's getting.
Oh, shut up.
None of
The
those
end.
fucking movies, dude. They're all shitty fucking award seekers.
Poor Things was awesome. And then on Thursday, we end Black History Month with a doozy. We've got Don't Be a Menace While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood. I'm Gonna Get You Sucker and How High.
I would recommend replacing How High with High School High.
Talk to Jason about it. He picked it. Ronnie Adams.
Yeah.
Tell us where you twist and shout.
Man, it's been a crazy couple of months. I've been trying to get my stream up and going again and things like that. It's coming soon.
That's
good night, folks. No, I like Mark said, I'm a dungeon master, but not the way he puts it. I play D&D. Actually, I'm a game master. I will play any tabletop role-playing game. I will run just about any tabletop role-playing game that you have. I do so on online through playgames.net, I think. Yeah, I should know what brings money in, but I don't. But yeah, I will be going to a convention next weekend in Asheville, North Carolina. We'll all be running games all weekend. Was it 16 hours worth of games in 3 days? It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, I stream on Twitch. Don't really do any live play on stream right now for D&D or anything, but I'm looking to get that started again. But I just play Call of Duty or whatever I fancy right now, and talk to people and answer D&D questions or answer role-playing game questions, whatever it is. So that's where I am. You can find me mostly on Instagram, where I'm most active, and TikTok at Misfits and Miscreants. It's the name of the show, the stream, and yeah, I am the misfit and the miscreant.
Pat Mullin pissed off the entire network because he is a superstar. No, let me tell you the story. Pat Mullin is a superstar. And when Pat Mullin walks in the building at Radulich Broadcasting Network Studios and says, "No, I want to do Josie and the Pussycats," the Evan Bevins of the world, the Chris Baileys, they all piss and moan and cry about it, but they know what's up. So March 14th, Pat Mullin, superstar, will be on Triple Feature doing Josie and the Pussycats, Spice World, and Satisfaction. Why, Pat? Because 2024 is the year we have fun.
I am going to take time off for being an RFK street teamer just for that. That's how much fun I believe it's going to be.
Yes, sir. Can't wait. And yes, after we end the podcast, I will schedule your substitute 187 Surviving the Game.
No, we're not watching Surviving the Game. It's the principal, the substitute, and 187.
We'll schedule, because I know Ronnie's like, I'm only podcasting with Pat because I'm madly in love with him. I will make sure this happens again because the three of us have fun.
Big meaty men slapping meat never gets old.
Meaty men slapping meat. That's right. All right. Meaty men slapping meat is the phrase that pays, everybody. Be well, be safe, and behave.